Hey everyone, it's Daniel here from Infovest. Hope you're all doing well. I want to talk about this interesting article and I'll post it in the description for you to read up on it. But it basically talks about the semiconductor industry, how the chip industry is seeing an increase in output and production, and most importantly, supply with these chips, which is basically projecting lower prices, which is basically projecting and is the result of the lower demand. And you're seeing in a lot of the earnings, like for example Samsung and so on, where they project future guidance to be weaker because there's lower demand. Now, the reason I bring this article up is because I talked about something similar to this when I talked about the bullwhip effect. Now, I want to talk about the bullwhip effect. The bullwhip effect basically is what we've seen during the COVID pandemic was we saw an inflow of stimulus money, printing of money, people had money in their pockets, they were going out, purchasing goods. You had retailers who were basically out of a lot of products that consumers wanted, ordering a lot of goods from the manufacturing companies, and all to find out later on that they don't need it anymore, that the consumers who were buying aggressively during COVID time, this time after a year or so, they didn't need the same amount of products at the same level like they did back in COVID. And what spurred all this demand during that time was because of that free money, that stimulus money, and that also there were shortages, and there was COVID, and there was the supply chain issue, which basically pushed the prices higher for a lot of these goods. So you had supply chain issue, shortages, plus increase of demand. Everyone was staying home, getting stimulus checks. People were buying. And then as soon as things started to open, and especially as rates started to move up in 2022, a lot of the inventory that was backlogged later came to the retailers, and they realized they had a bunch of inventory and it's not selling, the demand is coming down, and what should they do? So you could A, keep it on the shelves hidden until next time when things are better, or B, just get them off your shelves, which a lot of them did at cheap prices, giving discounts and whatnot, right? And now, after this whole cycle of now, demand not showing up, you have retailers basically saying that, hey, we're not ordering more goods from you guys anymore because we're seeing demand really diminish, right? So now that we see demand really diminish, you're getting an increase of supply from these manufacturers, aka like in this article here, the chips. They're increasing their the supply that's there because nobody's buying. Now, if nobody's buying, right, and these retailers are not buying, and there's an increase in supply, that basically brings the price down. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these semiconductor stocks and a lot of these stocks get hammered, because the demand is diminishing. Now, here's the other part that I mentioned also in the article, that if the demand diminishes and you get retailers and the manufacturing industry start to slow down on output and start to slow down on their supplies and say, we're not going to build as much as what we did before because we foresee demand coming down, and then let's say, how everyone in the equity markets are predicting the soft landing is coming, and we're not going to see a hard landing, and we're going to get rate cuts soon. And if that's all true, and we're going to get rate cuts, and all of a sudden we're going to get back to QE and stimulating money, and on top of that, you have these suppliers and retailers saying that, hey, we're not ordering as much as we did before, and we're not increasing the supply like we did before, that's just going to drive up inflation higher all over again, which is not going to be good, right? Now, we'll see how this plays out, but according to this bullwhip effect, we could probably see prices, especially in certain areas, certain goods and services, start to creep back up again as, the output and the supply starts to slow down and diminish later on. Right now, okay, sure, in certain areas you have a higher output, so that, you could foresee that, okay, the prices of certain goods are coming down, and you could see the stock prices dropping because of that, because of the forecast of the growth. But then if you're getting again in the future that they're going to slow down production, that should pick back price back up again. So it'll be very interesting to see, especially tomorrow. We have the Federal Reserve coming out. They're coming out to speak about their hikes, their plans. People are waiting for some pause, some pivot sounds, and some dovishness. Now, obviously, it's looking like that, the Fed will probably stay in line with what they're saying, with the hawkish stance, raising rates. But if they do give some sort of dovishness, then you could see a reversal in the markets and equities start to go up on that. But if it's everything in line, right, with the hawkish stance, sure, you could get some selling pressure, but then maybe some pick back up in the equity markets, as we're already seeing from the equity markets that they are not believing that the Fed is going to be hiking for very long. They're believing that we're going to see a cut. They're believing that we're going to see a pause first, then a cut, and that there's no way that they could hike for very long. And if that's the case, it'll be interesting to see, how inflation ends up being in the next year or so, and how this whole bullwhip effect plays out. And if the Fed, does decide to pause or cut rates, will they have to go back again maybe next year or year after, just like in the 1970s, 1980s, with the huge spike of inflation and a drop and a spike again? Will the Fed have to mimic the exact same thing, where they will come back and hike rates again? And if they hike rates again, will they do it more aggressive like before, especially if this is a soft landing? Let's see. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment below. Subscribe. Hit the like button as well. Bell icon to be notified on the next video. And I'll see you guys around. Cheers. Bye.